buckle in for a very chunky episode today, as we've got all sorts of brand new Nintendo Switch news that you're going to want to hear about, for better or for worse. Good morning, Mario, and good morning, Switch fans. Now, personally, I am counting down the hours till a couple of big game releases on other platforms. I'm waiting for Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth on my PS5, and I'm waiting for Last of Us Part 2 Remastered plus the roguelike mode on my PS5. Alas, those come out in a little bit, but right now, Golden Sun just dropped on Nintendo Switch. I'm downloading the two titles on the expansion pack NSO as we speak. They're two great games with beautiful pixel art, fun stories, and great combat. If you want to check them out, you can start those downloads as you watch this video. In the meantime, though, what's going on, everybody? It's Zach from SwitchForce. We're kicking it off with a sucky story. Don't like to usually start off this way, but I figured we would talk about it because it's important, and that is Thunderful Group laying off 20% of their company in a restructuring move to focus on things that can bring them more profit. Now, you can't blame them for wanting to restructure, but the human toll is absolutely unfortunate and really a bummer, especially because Thunderful for a while was one of the most exciting, eclectic, and successful indie brands out there, bringing a ton of great games to Switch. Thunderful was the union of Image & Form Games and Zoink. They formed together and made this publishing group that's been really cool. Now, Image & Form has done the SteamWorld series, which I think is fantastic, and Zoink has done games like Flipping Death, which are also really fun Switch early year indies. Unfortunately, things just haven't worked out, and they claim it's due to over-investing on projects that did not pan out. I really would like to see more SteamWorld, but the specifics here shouldn't matter in individual games and preferences. What's important is that it sucks that the gaming industry is going through so much of a squeeze. It feels like everything ballooned out the last couple of years. There's a ton of money, a ton of games, and now the condensing. I mean, it's definitely sweaty for people, but I mean the condensing is happening, and we're seeing it really take a huge unfortunate effect, which means a bunch of layoffs, people without jobs, and companies that, oops, now the employees are paying the price. I don't know how you avoid this. It seems like really money has dried up, and there's so many game releases out there that it's hard for even great ones to be successful. When you've got 100 great games, most of those are probably going to hit. But when you have 1,000 good games and another 1,000 not so good games and another 12,000 terrible games, I think there was 14,000 titles released on Steam this past year, it's really hard to stand out. So I don't think this is a shot at Thunderful's picks or even Thunderful's quality. It's more just commentary on the game industry as a whole. We're seeing restructuring and layoffs kind of all over the place, and I don't think it's going to stop based on what I've read and based on what I've heard. It's just a bummer, and I do hope that Thunderful can bounce back. I think the people working there had a lot of passion, and I think they did put forth a lot of great projects, so I think they will be valuable members of any team, and I do hope that as they go forward, they can balance the business better so that we don't one day see the closure of fine places like Image & Form, one of my favorite indie studios on the planet, and I can't wait to see their next project. I don't know, maybe SteamWorld Build wasn't all that successful for them. I hope they can bounce back. Speaking of bouncing back, Lara Croft is bouncing back onto Nintendo Switch with the Tomb Raider remasters. Nintendo and Aspyr Games detailed exactly what's going to be coming to Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3, including all the new visual tweaks, but also some interesting gameplay surprises. They're going to have both classic and modern control options for you. Boss health bars. They said it can be frustrating for tougher bosses with massive amounts of health to not know where you're at in the fight, so that's pretty cool. 3D item sprite replacement, a photo mode, which is pretty cool for a remastered type title. That's not something you usually see, and they're promising even more surprises that they want you to uncover for yourself. Now, these games are dropping in a 3-pack for $30, launching in a couple weeks on February 14th, and even though I would love to see the more modern Tomb Raider titles hit Nintendo Switch, I do think this is going to be a fun pack, and I think the remastering the visuals here is a very nice update, and one that I expected to be less impressive than it is, and the fact that they've added real-time lighting and they had such a focus on improving the art, the visuals, and the gameplay, this could be sort of a surprise hit early in the year for Nintendo Switch fans. But if you're looking for already established hits, Warner Brothers announced a nice Switch games deep discount sale on the eShop that just started today. They got big heavy hitters from 2023 on solid sales like Mortal Kombat 1 down 40%. If you remember, Mortal Kombat 1 is a $70 Switch game, one of the very, very select few that reached that top tier price. And it's 40% off down to $41.99 for the next couple of weeks. That's a pretty good deal for a fantastic fighter that has since launch been very updated and upgraded on Nintendo Switch. The version is far more palatable and much more playable than when it initially launched. You've also got Hogwarts Legacy, the best-selling game, I think, at least reported physically, of 2023, down to $41.99. That's a 30% discount on a game that does play pretty well, a nice port on Switch. We've got other things like the Lego Harry Potter games, 80% off, Lego Star Wars, 70% off, DC Villains, Lego City, Lego Marvel, as well as some Mortal Kombat DLC and older Mortal Kombat titles like Mortal Kombat 11 for $9, and hey, Scribblenauts Mega Pack, 85% off for $6 if you're looking for something extra quirky. I talked about Like a Dragon and Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, but Nintendo does have their first publishing release of the year later this week. Another code, Recollection, is dropping, and the first review is in. Famitsu gave it straight 8s across the board. That's 4 8s for a 32 out of 40. I think that's a pretty respectable score and probably around what I would expect. Based on my time with the demo in Another Code, I think that the gameplay and the story are interesting, but I do think that this feels like an antiquated title in 2024. I feel like the pacing and the way the camera works are really holding it back. Now, I'm not one to say that it can't still be fun for you, because I'm just more of a fast-paced gamer, but I did really feel like, man, if they could have just updated the pacing and at least the camera work that felt so slow to turn, I'd be more likely to pick this up and play it. As it goes right now, I will probably skip on this, as it is releasing at a $60 price point. Given the fact that the graphics look nice, I can understand, but for me, the parts of the game that I would have wanted upgraded just are not there, and so despite this 8 review score, I don't think I'll be picking it up. We've also got a new Switch game announced, which is pretty fun. It's Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown Deluxe Edition, dropping this summer. Now, Ace Combat 7 is a Pew Pew pilot game that dropped in 2019, and now, 5 years later, hitting Switch. It has a 2 to 8 player multiplayer mode, a single player campaign, and includes all of the DLC, including the Season Pass, from the original release packed into this Switch edition. Bandai Namco actually dropped a really nice trailer that you're seeing now, where they even compared the performance between the Switch version and the PS4 version, showing a pretty comparable port here, which I really do appreciate and like, and if you're into this sort of game, I think it's a fun one. It does continue to show that the first half of the Nintendo Switch calendar is just filled with ports, remasters, and re-releases. I do believe that this happens every year, but specifically in 2024, I feel like it's quite intentional. I don't think you're going to see hardly any major new titles from third parties or from first parties because they're waiting for the future, which we don't have to get into, but you know it's coming. Indie games, though, might still be very prevalent because indies don't rely on new technology, new hardware, and even a new console. In fact, they probably prefer the large, huge, already baked-in player base of Switch 1. But in terms of the big publishers like Ubisoft and Bandai Namco, and in terms of Nintendo themselves, I don't think you're going to see much brand spanking new outside of something like Super Princess Peach. Until this new system gets finally announced and finally shown off, I feel like all the biggest, best titles are going to be held for that. So if the first half of the year does feel slow, or at least like a little bit low-key for Switch, don't panic. Remember last year when they said, after the first half, there'll be no games? Well, after the first half of this year, I think there's going to be a new system. So just like last year when there were new games in the vein of Mario Wonder and Mario RPG's remaster, hey, we're getting a beautiful, wonderful new slate of titles this year as well. You don't have to worry, even if things start off a bit slow. But definitely let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you're going to pick up either Ace Combat 7 this summer or Another Code Recollection later this week, how do you feel about Thunderful and all the layoffs across the gaming industry? And are you excited for the Tomb Raider 1, 2, 3 remake, remaster, redo things with all sorts of added bells and whistles coming on February 14th? In the meantime, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay positive out there. And until next time, SwitchForce out.